Welcome everybody to the playoff edition.
Playoffs?
We're talking about playoffs?
Finally, we're here.
The playoff edition of the Gridiron Football top performances of the week. And this is a playoff edition, like we mentioned. Jace, LeJeune alongside Tyler Barros again for another week for our Players of the Week. We don't just stop after the regular season. We go right into the playoffs, and we change things a little bit for the playoffs. You see the backdrop that we have behind us. We're working with the backdrop here. Pretty nice Gridiron Football, and appreciate Andy for setting that's up with the backdrop in the back. And speaking of Andy, myself and Andy Bryson will have a Road to the Dome show this week. We weren't able to do it last week because it was a really hectic week for us for Gridiron Football. But we'll be back on track with it this week, and we'll have a big show for you later this week. It's called the Road to the Dome. We're going to really break down all these matchups. Now that a lot of the top teams are on bye this past week for the first round of the playoffs, now they're going to be involved, and they got games going on. Yeah. But this past week, we had a whole lot of playoff football that we covered. I mean, we went from, I was a little late to the party putting my article up, but East Ascension went to the East Ascension West Washita game. East Ascension won. And then Andy, at first he went to a monsoon. It was just pouring down. The rain. It was Rose Pond and Red River. He went to that game. Fortunately, they were able to go with the game, and they finished. Rose Pond won pretty convincingly. You went to Madison Prep. No, not Madison Prep. I'm thinking next week. Yeah, but Woodlawn and Brother Martin. And talk a little bit about how that game was, because it was definitely a game with ups and downs. And at one point you thought Brother Martin and that Woodlawn was going to run away with it, and the next second Brother Martin was running away with the football game.
Yeah, it really looked like it. I mean, I don't remember his first, second drive. Ricky Collins had like a 60-yard run, puts him in the end zone, touchdown run. They end up going up 20-0 or something like that, and then 45 unanswered points, man. That Brother Martin team, they didn't back down from the challenge. You know, they got hurt with it a little bit, but yeah, they stepped up to the plate and really showed that their not only offense can perform, but their defense showed up and stood tall with that Woodlawn offense.
And we'll cover Scotlandville, and Scotlandville won pretty convincingly over East Jefferson, and that sets up a pretty big matchup, which I'm sure we'll be talking about for the Road to the Dome show. They have and the car again. I mean, they played these guys earlier in the regular season, and I mean, and the car is possibly the best team in the entire state. So not a great draw for Scotlandville, and it's gonna be tough to beat those Cougars right now. They're rolling. Yeah. And then also Lucas went to a game as well. It was Alexandria and McKinley. McKinley was actually the higher seeded team. They hosted Alexandria, but Alexandria got the upset of winning pretty by a large margin. And I think a lot of it has to do with strength of schedule when you're playing a lot of the tougher teams. Even though their record might not be as good as McKinley, the strength of schedule that they play with, that makes things, even
changes everything.
Yeah, it changes everything. And that's what really Alexandria was dealing with. And that really helps them when you go in and play in the playoffs like they did against McKinley. And we'll have plenty of more games that we'll cover this week, obviously. When we have the second round of the playoffs, we'll have our Road to the Dome show later this week. It'll be live on Facebook. It'll also be posted on YouTube, so make sure you check that out. And go to gridironfootballusa.com. There's a lot of content from this past week. Jason took some games at Tulane, went to the Tulane game. That was a big game on Saturday, ranked matchup between Tulane and UCF. Obviously, I covered a lot of LSU this past Saturday. LSU beats Arkansas to get the Golden Boot. And then I posted another article after that about LSU winning the SEC West and going to the SEC championship game.
Back to
Atlanta. First time since 2019.
We know what happened there.
Yeah, we know what happened there, and that was against Georgia in the SEC championship game. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes, but check out that content at gridironfootballusa.com. Now, let's talk about what everybody's tuning in for, and that is the Player of the Week. And you know the rule at this point in the season. If you're playing in the playoffs, you're still in, you're still fighting for a chance to win, you're eligible to be have a player on here for Player of the Week. And as long as your team keeps on winning, the more chances that you have of getting Player of the Week. So now there are a lot of teams that, like we mentioned, were on bye. So a lot of the top teams, well, they actually they didn't get a chance this week because they had a bye. But a lot of the first round matchups, those are teams that had chances to have a Player of the Week. And it's going to get harder now because you need your best in order to advance to the next round because there's no tomorrow. It's literally win or go home, and this is when we saw the list. We met together as a staff, and we saw how close really this list was because you knew you need a little bit extra to help your team go to the next round. So we saw a lot of those performances this week.
Yeah, it's a little different when it comes to playoffs, man. You expect your stars to show up, but hey, man, if they don't show up, next man up. That's all it's about.
Well, we're going to talk about those performances, and this week we had about 22, which was pretty good considering that not a lot of teams were really playing a lot this week because it was really the middle matchups. All the teams that were on bye did not play this week, and a lot of teams were eliminated from the playoffs. So, but we had a good turnout, and I appreciate the coaches for doing that because they're focusing on the next opponent ahead, a lot of these teams. So, but let's get to it with the first of the honorable mentions. First, we have Jason Shelvin, Abbeville. He was a quarterback at one point for Abbeville. He's now playing running back now. And this was an even matchup. I believe this was a 16 versus 17 ranked matchup. And actually, Abbeville went on the road and defeated Bruley 36-14. And it was Jason Shelvin, the former quarterback, that's been doing a little bit of everything. He's playing a little running back now. 12 carries, 94 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the win for Jason Shelvin. You got Southern Lab running back Joshua Davis. They have a big offensive line, and they got some really talented guys in Southern Lab. Saw them a couple of times this year. And Joshua Davis is a really good running back. In the win over River Oaks, 53-0, Joshua Davis had 12 carries, 162 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then Archbishop Hannon, they had a win over Kenner Discovery, 34-21. Brody Smith is an athlete for him, and he had a 25-yard interception return for a touchdown and a 5-yard touchdown catch. So scored on offense, scored on defense, and he starts in all 3 phases of the game for the Hawks.
Talk about that versatility right there. You got everything.
Yep, we're going to have a lot of versatile performances this week. St. Martinville's Kanan Zenon, the quarterback. That was the only Thursday night playoff game that was going on, and he had a good performance. Caden did. When the 28-7 win over DeRitter, was only completed 7 passes for 11 attempts, but had 236 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. So 2 touchdowns off 7 completions. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, talk about 7 passes only. That's probably guessing like 32, 33, 34, somewhere around that area per completion. So that's a pretty good game right there, that quarterback.
Yeah, pretty good average.
Yeah, no kidding.
Pretty good average. And 3 more players for our honorable mentions. Bro Bridge, their running back / linebacker, Antonio Alexander. That was an upset. They defeated Carroll. They were the lower seeded team. Went to Carroll. Carroll's having a great regular season this year, and they defeat Carroll in the upset. And Antonio Alexander played a big role in that. 2 rushing touchdowns, had 19 carries for 58 yards, and then on defense had 5 solo tackles and 2 assists, including a 3rd down stop. And then the last 2 performances, Abram Johnston, he's the quarterback for Parkview Baptist, in a 31-0 win over Holy Savior Menard. He completed 18 of 26 passes, 222 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Also had 10 carries for 59 yards rushing. So, yeah, I mean, just exactly what you need from your quarterback. You have to play winning football at this point of the year, and Abram Johnson did that.
Sure.
So that's just a pretty good matchup next week for Parkview. They got North Caddo, so that's going to be a pretty good matchup between both those 2 teams. And then Tylen Cooper, what can you say about him? He's been consistent all year long. He's been on a list like multiple times this year, but unfortunately this will be the last time. But it's a good way to go out for your senior season after having a really good senior season. He had, in a loss to ERAP, 34-30. He had 9 catches, 175 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Not a bad way to cap off your career at Eunice with a performance like that.
Yeah, no kidding.
So those are your honorable mentions, and those are pretty strong performances for honorable mentions. But then we go into our top 15, and as always, Tyler here will count us down.
All right, let's get into it. At number 15 from Berwick High School, we have Jaden Milton, running back.
Yeah, Berwick, they've been leaning a lot on Jaden Milton, especially at the beginning of the year. I believe they went off to a 6-0 start. They faltered down the stretch, but But it's like they picked it up again.
Yeah, they did.
And when you hand the ball off to Jaden Milton, that does it for you.
Yes, sir.
In the win over Joel Sumner, Jaden Milton had 180 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns in the 38-26 win. So he counted for about 18 points himself of the 38. And this was a close game against Joel Sumner. So really relying on Jaden Milton really made all the difference in the world.
Yep. And at number 14, we have our Rose Pine guy from at Rose Pine played Red River this week, a running back, Grant Ducote.
Yeah, we have to have a Rose Pine guy,
Yes,
right?
we
Of
always
course,
have to.
Andy Bryson has to put a Rose Pine player in the top 15. We have to. We have to. And it has to be Grant Ducote because he's been Mr. Rose Pine like the last 4 years.
I feel like every week he's producing these numbers, man, going out there. He doesn't just do it on the offense side of the ball. He's a pretty good defender over there.
Yeah, 136 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns. We know what he can do running the football. He's the all-time leading rusher in Rose Pine history. Had 3 rushing touchdowns, and the 4th was a receiving touchdown. And then he had, like you mentioned, on defense, 4 tackles in the TFL. Mr. Grant Ducote's always busy playing for the Rose Pine Eagles.
No kidding. And going to number 13 from Evangel Christian Academy in Shreveport, we have wide receiver Parker Fulgham.
Yeah, Parker Fulgham. And believe it or not, this is a name drop too, but that's actually the son of Josh Booty, who played quarterback at LSU.
Yeah.
That's actually his son. He actually has another son that throws to him.
Cool.
So he has 2 sons that play for Evangel.
That's awesome right there.
And this is the receiver, Parker. Parker had 9 catches, 163 yards, and 3 touchdowns. When you know about the Booty family, they can throw the football, and they're known for passing. And this is another member of the family, Parker Fulgham, with a 9-catch, 163-yard, and 3 touchdown performance in the win, a shutout win over Estruma, 60-0 for number 13 spot.
All right, going to number 12 from Cecilia High School, we have quarterback Jermani Davis.
Jermani Davis has been like Mr. Versatility really this year because we called his name a couple of times on this list as he's no stranger to this list. No. And in the win over Franklinton 35-28, he did a little bit of everything. Yeah. 5 for 8, throwing the football for 58 yards and a touchdown pass. Had 13 carries, 156 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the ground. Yeah. Also had 3 catches for 27 yards. So we'll take some Hill type of action with that stat line.
I mean, he does it all. Talk about that versatility. I know Will likes to talk about, and just doing it all. Not even just throwing it, receiving, rushing it. I mean, can't stop that guy, I guess.
No, you can't. I mean, it's like, he definitely plays a role in Cecilia's offense with Coach Gaines for the Cecilia Bulldogs, and they got the win 35-28 to move on to the next round. Let's go to number 11, Tyler.
Yeah, number 11 we have from Idaho High School. We have linebacker Dayton Boone.
If you're going to be on this list as a defensive player only, we had 2 defensive players this year. Both were from Dutchtown. And last week was a defensive player from Dutchtown.
Yeah, A.K. Burrell won last week.
A.K. Burrell, and then a defensive lineman earlier in the season, too. And Dayton Boone, as a linebacker, put up really good numbers. 12 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a PBU, and I think was really the icing on the cake was an interception return for a touchdown from 50 yards out. A pick 6, I think, really put the icing on the cake for him being a top 15 performer this week in the team's 28-0 win over Northwest.
Yeah, great game for that linebacker over there.
So Tyler would go into the top 10.
All right, man, getting to it. All righty, from Evangel Christian High School, we have defensive end Gabriel Relford.
Yep. Another player from Evangel. So 2 players already in the top 15 for Evangel Christian. And when you win 60-0, I think you have multiple guys on the list. And Gabriel was on this list because of it. 16 total tackles for a defensive end. That is very impressive when you have 16 tackles at the defensive end spot. Not a linebacker, at defensive end. He had 2 tackles for loss, a sack, and then add another quarterback hurry. He was all over the field for Evangel.
I mean, 16 tackles for a defensive end. That's just like, I feel like that's unheard of. You just don't hear about that every day. So that's the type of performance that has to, make the top 10, coming from the defense end.
And number 9 is a player that you saw up and close and personal this past Friday.
Yes, from Brother Martin at number 9, we have Tory Lambert, running back.
Yeah, Tory Lambert. The Lamberts are a very good football family. Corey was his dad. Corey was a longtime coach at John Ehret. And then his brother, also playing college football too, Corey Lambert Jr., he is going to play future college football too.
Yes.
I believe he's committed to Texas State. Yep,
yes.
Texas State. And Brother Martin's going to run the football. I know you were there. Ricky Collins, little on there, lining up early, 20-0. But what does Brother Martin do? They lean on Tory Lambert the rest of the way. 30 carries for 254 yards and 3 touchdowns. Well, I mean, he was really the guy. There was no question who Brother Martin was going to get the football to.
Yeah, they have another guy over there, Clayton Leonardo, wide receiver, lines up.
Does a little bit of everything, quarterback, receiver. Yep.
Yeah, they had him going a little bit. I know he scored a touchdown, but Tory, man, he was the play of the game for sure. I mean, I got to see him early in the season play against Madison Prep, and I knew, seeing him in that first game, I knew he was going to be a problem all season for teams because he's just a really physical running back. He runs hard downhill. I mean, he isn't shy away from contact, and he's going to fight for some extra yards on every game. So great performance from that running back out of Brother Martin.
Yeah, Woodlawn didn't have an answer for him. As simple as that, and that's what's keeping Brother Martin alive as they move on to the next round of the playoffs. I believe the play of St. Augustine. So that should be a good Catholic League matchup in the next round. Let's go to number 8, Tyler.
Yeah, number 8 from Metairie Park Country Day, we have running back Taj Oberhelman.
Yeah, that's a player I definitely remember when calling the Episcopal's games. The Episcopal played Country Day earlier this year. And Country Day got the job done. They defeated Green Oaks 34-12, and it was because of Taj Oberhelman at running back. They had a Jack Swing at running back a couple of times. We mentioned his name. I guess it was whoever the hot hand was, and Taj was a hot hand this past Friday. 28 carries, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then did some work on defense. 4 total tackles and 2 PBUs.
Doing a little bit of everything right there. Okay, I see Taj.
Yeah, Taj, good job, man. With good performance, you get our number 8 spot. We go to number 7, a familiar name at number 7.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. At number 7 from Laurelville High School, we have running back Evan Simon.
Evan Simon. We're gonna call it whatever way that because we gotta occasion it up occasionally, and Simone is the alternative for Simon. This is the way things we do here. 50-6 win over Vidalia, and remember Evan had a bunch of touchdowns last week. I believe he had 4 or 5 last week, and he added another 4 this week. Won 18 carries, 244 yards, and then obviously, like I mentioned before, the 4 touchdowns in the win over Vidalia. And really, he's making a occurrence of being in the end zone. I think it's you might have an apartment complex or something there by the time this season's over, as many times he's been in the end zone.
Yeah, I feel like these past 2 weeks he's kind of been heating up. I know, like you said, they have another run back over there, but Evan Simon, he's been doing his thing, and that's the right time you want to start, getting it right before the playoffs and getting into the playoffs, feeling hot and doing your thing. So good job, Evan. Great performance.
We go back to the ground game, and then the name we called before, just like Evan.
Cedric Allison we have from number 6 from Oakdale High School running back.
Now, with Cedric, statistically, he had a really good performance. But if you look at the performance in the 30-20 win over Franklin, he had 13 carries, 140 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches for 60 yards, and a touchdown. But why is he so high up on this list? It was because he scored the go-ahead, really winning touchdown for this team. In a close game, there's somebody to make a play, and Cedric Allison, really the team's best offensive player, stepped up and made a play in the win over Franklin to move on to advance. It doesn't matter how you do it. You got to move on and advance to the next round, and Cedric Allison made that play in order for this team to continue to play football here in November.
Yeah, just like you said, it doesn't matter how you get the win as long as you get the win in playoff football. That's all that matters.
We go into the top 5, and this is when we met as a staff, when it was you, Will, Luke. We all met, and this is okay, this is when it gets real when we talk about the top 5.
Yes, and getting to that top 5, we have from Ledger High School, number 5, Dwayne Winfield.
Man, he's been really the guy for Letcher for as long as I can remember. He's the all-time leading rushing touchdown leader at Letcher. And Letcher's had a lot of really good athletes at quarterback. John Trey Kirkland played quarterback at Letcher, who played in the bowl game, started quarterback last year. And they've had some really good quarterbacks. And Letcher's won a couple state championships. And then Dwayne Jenkins been around some really good quarterbacks, but I don't think he even said he doesn't remember a quarterback really carry a team in the playoffs like he did last year. And it was like we're starting off the playoffs exactly like that. Because in the first round they defeated Wassman 42-12. In the game, he can throw the football. It's not like he's just a running quarterback. I mean, he was 8 for 10, 146 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So 3 touchdowns off 8 completions, pretty impressive. But then this is what he does best: run the football. 20 carries, 167 yards, 2 touchdowns, accounted for about 313 yards of offense by himself and 5 touchdowns, and they scored 42 points. So really, all but 1 touchdown, he scored himself. So talk about putting a team on his back.
Literally,
it's literally Dwayne Winfield.
Yeah, I mean, another impressive performance from this quarterback. I know he's been doing it all season, and like you said, he does it with his feet. That's what he wants to do. But he also can throw that ball, so don't really focus on that. Don't let that shot.
It's going to be interesting what happens because he's been recruited D1 as an athlete, but also some Division I schools are interested in that quarterback. So we'll see what he goes with the future. But he can definitely be, for the right school, he can definitely be a Division I quarterback for the right school.
Yeah, I believe so too.
We go to number 4, and we're talking about what Will likes to hear, the versatility, or again, some of the versatile performances coming up.
Yes, at number 4 we have from Opelousas Catholic running back Chris Brown.
Yeah, not to be confused with the rapper Chris Brown, and it's the other Chris Brown, and from Opelousas Catholic. 52-20 over St. Edmund, and in the win, he had 15 carries, 121 yards, and a touchdown. You had 2 extra points. You had 4 catches for 167 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had 3 touchdowns off of 4 catches for 167 yards. So, man, Christian Brown, excellent performance that you had against St. Edmund.
Yeah, no kidding right there. I mean, 4 total touchdowns. I mean, some fresh performance, and he had the 2 PATs. So talk about that versatility right there.
Yeah, he had almost 300 yards of all-purpose yardage because he had 100 yards, over 100 yards rushing. Then you have over 100 yards receiving, and man, he also kicked the extra points too.
Yeah, he does it all.
Yeah, so he counted for 26 points.
Okay, yeah.
So I mean, that would outscore St. Edmund if he would score by himself.
Yeah, no kidding. Great performance, Chris, over there.
Incredible. We go to the top 3.
Yes, sir. We get into that top 3. So from East Feliciana High School, we have athlete Stanley Gilmore.
East Feliciana is really a sleeper in this bracket. They are a very explosive offense, and Stanley Gilmore is a very underrated piece of ballot. Everybody talks about their quarterback, and everybody talks about Tredez Green, who's like the 6'7" tight end wide receiver that puts split out wide. But a lot of the offense runs through Stanley Gilmore. I called his game against Episcopal earlier this year, and he's really a spark plug for that offense, and he was a spark plug in the 48-0 win over Elton. Had 125 receiving yards, a receiving touchdown, had 95 rushing yards, a rushing touchdown, and then he, being a two-way school, he plays both ways too, and it was pretty impactful on defense. Had 4 solo tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, and then also a sack as well. So does a little bit of everything for East Feliciana. He's really kind of like the spark plug for this football team.
Yeah, no, great performance from Stanley over there.
Number 2, like we said about the rule, and this is a couple of things for number 2. The first thing is this would not be a list if we don't have an Avoyles player on this list, and he's on this list. And then the rule goes back to the fact if you've won before this year, then you can go as high as 2, but you're not number 1. And in this case, we have a player that's won Player of the Week earlier this year. That's our number 2 spot.
Yes, at number 2, we have from Avoyles, like you said, running back DeCarrion Sampson.
And he's a touchdown machine. I mean, I'm a point scoring machine. I'm not sure if anybody scored more points than he's had this year. I mean, look at his stats: 10 carries, 180 yards, 3 touchdowns, had 3 catches for 74 yards, and 2 more touchdowns, and plus had 2 more 2-point conversions that count for 34 points. They would have won 34-0 just off of their carryings numbers, but they defeated Lakeside 16-0 and the Foils. Man, they're going to be a dangerous team in the playoffs because it's not just a carrying, but they have 2 other running backs that can go off at any moment. They are loaded for sure.
Yeah, I think Bazar Jr. over there, right?
Yep, he's like 260 pounds, right?
Yeah, big bowling ball over there for the running back. I mean, they're going to do some damage. I know they're a run-heavy offense, but, I mean, hey, if you can't stop it, man, good luck. I mean, to carry on, I think, in my opinion, would have been the #1 player if he didn't win early this season. But, I mean, talk about his performance early in the season. I know he had 7 touchdowns in that performance, and now he had 5 touchdowns. In 2 games, he has 12 touchdowns. 12 touchdowns in 2 games is absurd, I think. A lot of people, might not even have 12 touchdowns for the season, but, to do it over 2 games is incredible.
Yeah, scored a touchdown single season record. Obviously, if you look at those 2 games alone, but he has a touchdown record at the Foils, and it shows how really good he's been this year in a loaded backfield. It's not like he's just a guy. They have like 3 other guys that they get the football to. It just shows you how explosive that this Mustangs offense has been. Yeah. And they're a running football team, which hey. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to be a passing team to be explosive. You can be a running team and be explosive, and that's what Wills has done. Well, we go to #1, and if you're keeping track at home through the regular season, we've had, we started off with back-to-back running backs, then we went to a quarterback, then a wide receiver, then back to a quarterback, then back to a running back. Tell me someone doesn't fit. A defensive tackle, an athlete,
just thrown in there,
and then a quarterback, and then safety and A.K. Burrell. So we've had about, we had about 3 running backs. We've had about 3 quarterbacks and 1 wide receiver and 2 defensive players. So yeah, it's been a little even across the board.
Yeah,
and then I guess #1 we have to go. You think we have more quarterbacks this year?
Yeah,
at #1. So. It's really been more about the running game.
Sure.
But fortunately, y'all get to have one. Yes. We get to have a quarterback back on the list at #1. Tyler, who is our playoff first round edition of our Player of the Week.
Sir, at #1 we have Colin Rains from Haughton High School, quarterback.
Talking to Coach Brotherton, Colin Rains, I mean, he's the engine for this offense. I mean, everything really runs through him. He's a senior. He's just a winner for this football team, and this is kind of a more perfect example of it because they were the underdog. They were the lower seeded team. They had to go and play Airline on the road, and he's a senior quarterback, Colin Rains is, that put the team on his back. Yeah. And the reason why he's #1 in the 36-26 win over Airline is recording the ever-rare hat trick.
Sure.
He had, of course, throwing the ball. He's a quarterback. Yeah. So, obviously, he threw a touchdown. He threw a couple. He was 7 of 12, 79 yards, and 2 touchdown passes passing. So, that's one aspect of the hat trick. Then he also had 22 carries, 223 yards, and a touchdown running the football. Yep. He's playing running back numbers as a quarterback. That's trifecta #2. And to complete all this, he has a 5-yard touchdown catch to complete the ever-rare hat trick in high school football. A 4-touchdown performance, scoring 3 different ways.
Yeah, I mean, what a performance right there. You don't see that every week, the hat trick and for football at least, and that's just a great performance from that quarterback right there. I mean, I've said it multiple times over this season during the play of the week. I mean, it's all about the running quarterback, I feel like. Times are changing,
Look at the NFL.
Yeah, look at the NFL. I mean, you got a guy like Lamar Jackson. Justin Fields has really been stepping up for Chicago Bears. Like, he had a great performance this week, and, I mean, it's really about the running quarterback. I mean, he put up, like you said, running back numbers, 22 carries for 200-something yards. I mean, that's an impressive performance coming out of your quarterback, and he threw the balls for more, and with the touchdown catch. I mean, yeah, it's #1 right there. There's no complaints from me.
Yeah, that definitely deserves to be #1. Congratulations, Colin, on that performance. I mean, that was definitely... So congratulations to Haughton and Coach Brotherton. Congratulations to Colin Rains for being our #1 performance a performer
Yes, sir.
of Week 11 for Gridiron Football, and now they get to play East St. John to move on.
Yeah,
So,
it's a good game.
yeah, it should be a really good game. East St. John barely survived. They almost survived. They almost had been upset too in the first round. They won by 1 point, I believe, against Walker. So this is another team that's going to definitely test East St. John after they upset a team in Airline. And Colin Rains, I mean, with him playing as well as he's been having, and I mean, really this team goes wherever he goes, and if he keeps on playing performances up like that, then Haughton can make a pretty deep playoff run this year.
Yes, it can. I mean, it's a great performance out of that quarterback Colin Rains. I mean, I know they'll be looking for him to, next week's game, and he didn't shy away from the the big game, because like you said, he's a senior, could have been the last game, as a high school player, and he stepped up and gave his team a fighting chance to go on next week and play again. So great job, Colin.
Yeah, good. Congratulations, Colin, and that's a way to really cement yourself in the program's history right there with a performance like that, to get an upset and move on to the next round. Especially for the seniors, there's no tomorrow like the playoffs. Well, recapping the list, what do you think, Tyler, about do you think we got it right just at the end?
I think we did get it right, Colin, with the hat trick and everything to carry on, any other week if you didn't win, that's a #1 performance, obviously, because time and time again, he does it again. So we had a great list this week. We had a good mix. We had some defensive players in there, some guys that very versatile, could do it on both sides. So yeah, we had a great list.
Yeah, and really, even though the carry-on's not eligible for #1, I still think that was a #1 type performance for Colin Rains, and he definitely deserved it. And congratulations again to Colin and Haughton for that honor. So we get to go back to a North Louisiana quarterback after we gave I've got Gray Waters their honor for Benton a couple weeks ago. We go back to North Louisiana and give those North Louisiana quarterbacks are not too shabby either.
Right.
We talk about those South Louisiana quarterbacks, but North Louisiana's pretty good. They got a couple good ones, and Colin Rains is another one.
Yep.
Well, Tyler's been a good show, and I'm so excited. Second round of the playoffs, and man, I'm looking forward to it. You get to see a lot of the teams coming off bye that had the rest, and we'll see how that rest affects them. That's that old adage about teams. What position would you rather be in? Would you rather be playing, continuing to play, not have the rest, or would you be the team that gets the rest but might be a little rusty because of that week off? So we'll get to see which teams get the upper hand.
Yes, we will.
Well, we're going to continue to do this. We're not going away. Next week, we'll have Week 12 of Gridiron Football Top Performances of the Week. If you're still in, well, you're still alive as well to be eligible for the Player of the Week show and be on here. It's not just the #1 guy. We talk about all the guys from 1 to 15 and even the honorable mentions. Once again, I have to shout out Will and Luke for helping us out with this show too, putting on the pictures and videos that you see on the show. Could not do the show without them. It's been another great edition of the show. Great to have Tyler on board with me, trying to handle my craziness as well. But it's all in good fun, and I appreciate all the coaches for sending in their nomination, and keep an eye out for an email and a text as well as we go in the second round of the playoffs already. It's pretty crazy.
I mean, get to it. I know Matt's down a week also. We're really looking forward to them to go against, I believe, St. Louis Catholic.
Yep.
I believe they won in their game. And I know you'll be covering Episcopal this week.
So. That's right. I'm going to be calling the game, calling the action for VSN when the Episcopal plays against Loyola Prep. And we'll see how far the Knights go. And as long as they go, the longer I'll cover them. And then, if they somehow lose, well, I get a chance to cover some other teams. So it's a win-win for me. So hope you all enjoyed the show. We're looking forward to being next week. Make sure to share it to your friends. Share it on Facebook, YouTube. Make sure you share the show. Hopefully you all enjoyed the show. And, please tell everybody about us at Gridiron Football, and catch everything that we do at GridironFootballUSA.com. For Tyler, for Will, for Luke, I'm Jace, saying so long, and we'll catch you next time on the Player of the Week show, brought to you by Gridiron Football.